Hey everyone, welcome to the Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Eden Chai, and on today's episode, I dive into how to create offers that actually get people in the door and retain them. Now, my guest is Sam Winn, who has a storied marketing career, starting with Cardinal Group, Agency 53, among some other amazing companies. He's now at rent.com, but I've been waiting for months to pick his brain on this exact topic because I believe there's so much opportunity for multifamily to use offers in a more intelligent way without increasing any marketing spend. The psychology behind offers is fascinating, and we dive into that on this episode. One example that I want to share with you before you actually start listening is Sam has a specific example from one of the lease ups he worked on where they used an offer to not just address objections and eliminate them, helping out the leasing team, but they used offers to retain residents by creating a specific lifestyle that they would get attached to over the course of the lease. It was really fascinating. I learned a ton, and I'm super excited for you to tune in. And we're live. Sam, thanks so much for coming on to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I vividly remember the first time we nerded out about offers because I had asked you, why aren't people stacking offers like we're seeing in e-commerce? And we even had that LinkedIn conversation. And it was so refreshing to hear that you had a similar opinion that there's not a lot of creativity, specifically in multifamily, when it comes to using offers in an intelligent way, stacking value, and a lot of other fun stuff that we'll get into this conversation. But I wanted to kick it off and ask you, when's the first time you really became passionate about this topic or maybe realized how valuable creating an offer is to the success of any marketing campaign or business?
Yeah, I think I think probably 8 years ago when we were first starting out and kind of really learning the intricacies of multifamily and the purchasing process and how folks go about it. We see a lot of common offers, right? We were a big paid search shop. We had hundreds of accounts that we were running, and you'd see a lot of the same things. You could go through and be like, okay, these are like the five offers that like people are running like everywhere. So I think like, the way that I feel about it, which I think most operators and owners do as well, is, you always want to just like give away things just to give away things. I think it's in housing, especially you're seeing a big lag of people like leasing later and later in the season because they know offers are coming. They're kind of Pavloved in that way to kind of hold out. And that's a whole other different beast than multifamily. But even in multifamily, we'd always talk about, well, how can we really use the product positioning, use its strengths to like not just to not give offers, but like first incentivize and see what people are interested in. Because when you see, free parking, 1 month free, like waived application fees and things like that, like the more consumers see that across the board and in the broader landscape, those just kind of become inherently what they look for and almost like what they start to demand. So I think even diversifying offers, makes everyone more competitive and it allows them to just like better position their product. So we'd always talk about, we don't want to give out incentives. Owners are like, great, we don't either. We don't want to give out concessions or anything like that. So we're like, well, let's start and figure out what your audience really likes and care about. And then, subsidize that where we can with offers and specials. But like, let's get creative with it. Let's see how we can entice someone to enhance their living experience and like really add value to what it means to be a resident at that community. Or, versus can we just discount this in some way like everyone else? So we've you really get in with some like creative groups that are willing to like push the envelope, but we also learn like what a decision process that is. When it comes to like the financials of the community and how that needs to be run. I think we talk about scratch the surface at like tiered offers. There's a lot of planning and legwork that goes into it, and a lot of offers, we'll get on a Thursday and be like, it's Memorial Day weekend, we run this through the weekend. There's not always time to have that type of collaboration. So you just got to be flexible. But when it comes to the relationship side, and if you're working with operators or owners for a long time, you can really have these strategic conversations.
I think one thing I love about having some creativity in the offer space is how much it requires you to get in tune with your prospects and residents. Because if you want to create a hard hitting offer, there is no shortcut. You have to do the research and figure out what they care about so you can create something that's different and is actually going to pull them in, right? Maybe you know that everyone at your community are subway commuters and you're giving away a free subway pass. Or you know that they're very wellness inspired and you're giving a free yoga membership or whatever it might be. But obviously, if you kind of spray and pray and say, oh, this yoga studio is next to our community and we're just going to give a free one, that's not really going to land because it's unique, but not for any tangible benefit. But one thing
Yeah.
that's interesting to me is, ownership groups want the offer because leasing velocity is low. So they want to speed that up. And they give away usually as much as they're comfortable with to lower the price and get people in the door. Users are a little bit different because, of course, you always want to find the best deal. But getting the best deal and feeling like you're getting the best deal are two completely different things, right? You can obviously find the cheapest price per square foot apartment in any market and just rent that one and say, hey, I got the best deal, right?
Yeah.
But there's a psychology. Research has been done that shows that dopamine gets released when you feel like you get that offer and you claim that offer. There's like this dopamine hit, kind of like when you stress shop, you get that dopamine hit and it makes you feel very good. So when you create these limited time offers, there's that psychology that gets them to act. That's ultimately what we're trying to get people to do. So I think just like what you've seen, most of what I've seen in this space is kind of the 4 or 5 same offers. And I think prospects are fatigued. And I don't think it's having that effect of making them feel really good anymore because they're kind of like, yeah, everyone offers 2 months free. In New York, like every single community or apartment building basically has the same offer. And you're like, yeah, I know the deal. It's this much,
So,
but with 2 months free, this is how much it comes out to. I know the deal. So I don't
yeah.
think it's really having that effect of making us feel good anymore if we're all fatigued.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think I like how you said, um, there's actual tangible benefits. I forget how you phrase it, but there's tangible benefits, and then there's ways that like hit your dopamine levels and make you feel like you're getting a better deal. And I think that's been really interesting over these, economically, especially over these past years where prices just have been higher. So people are kind of gravitating more towards like what their savings are. We were in all the discussions about disclosing fees, whether they're mandatory, elective, hidden, and all of that. It may say $2,000 on the website, but it's, $2,400 a month out the door once everything's included. So it's a frustrating it's a frustrating feeling for any prospect. So I think we're kind of meeting back in the middle of, how transparent are we going to be in these economic times? If we can shut the box of, yep, should we get the right demographic, we're priced very competitively and, or just fairly within the market, then that's where that window of creativity opens up. And you can really use that to appeal to the type of resident that you want. So we had a pool on which like my old team would, I bore them to death, but I just love this example. We did it like 8 years ago. It's still fun all the time, and it was for a community in Denver. It was right near the Botanic Gardens, but if for those folks that are familiar with Denver, it's an historic zone, so there's no signage for the building. You can't put any monument signage outside. It's kind of tucked away like a block and a half off a little side street that you wouldn't go down. It's almost like a cul-de-sac and it runs into what's Cheeseman Park. So like there's no foot traffic coming by there either. And you're in like a bit of a weird like food desert and almost like restaurant desert where you're close to a lot of things, but you can't really walk there right now. There's like a little street that's like opened up and it's a little bit more there's restaurants, coffee shops and some things, but at the time, 8 or 9 years ago, there wasn't that much around. So we ran a campaign called A Sense of Home. And what we did there is we played on all the 5 senses. And I can, you know, we'll just chat in on a couple of them, but we made a landing page for this. We did filmed the video for it to kind of like really drive the messaging home and what it felt like. And what we really wanted to drive to the consumer is like, this is like a quiet, really nice, loving place to like call your home and, be a resident at, but you're also close to a lot of things. And for things that you're not that close to, or things that you might not take advantage of that are natural amenities right around it. We wanted to incentivize that because we know that people that really enjoy not just the community that they live in, but the surrounding neighborhood, and then make sure anything they don't have access to, we can fess subsidize. Um, to me, that is a great way to draw people in, and really even from a long term standpoint, retention wise. So within the sense of home, we did printouts of scratch and sniff stickers. So for like the 5 or scratch and sniff posters, and they abutted the Botanic Gardens. So we had an annual membership that we give to the Botanic Gardens, and like they do everything year round. It's a great place to go work. They've got Wi-Fi throughout it all, and gardens are always changing. They've got music. They've got different events. But it's something that's kind of like out of just not front of mind. But if you have a pass to it and you live right behind it, you start using it. It's not part of the actual community, but it's part of the neighborhood you live in, and that really helps build a sense of home and a sense of like broader community for what we live. So we ran that as one of the incentives for like smell or vision. I forget which one it was. And then on the food desert side, there's just not a grocery store like within a couple miles. So we ran at the time a Blue Apron subscription that lasted 6 months that could allow, because a lot of there's a bit of an older demographic, called like mid-30s, we saw when the company took over the management. So we're like, great, this is a great way that you can like cook at home, and you've got such nice appliances inside, and you want to like be able to enjoy all that. So why don't we have meals delivered that you can cook at home with your friends, your family, and enjoy the community in that way, as opposed to, oh, we're gonna order out, we're gonna go out to dinner all the time, because there's grocery shopping is a bit of a pain for us, and we'll kind of subsidize that. And we had a lot of fun with it. The video was great. As marketers, we clipped it up, we used it everywhere. We actually ran display and marketing ads that were like scratch and sniff too, which I thought was a little cheeky and fun, because obviously it doesn't work on a complete screen. But that was one that I thought was really fun and really creative for the operating group to let us really roll the dice with, and budget out for going all in on it. This was a bit of a lifestyle shoot, if you'd call it, and categorize it for a video. But those assets remained so consistent, and the campaign itself actually got featured in the Denver Ego Test. So like it even stretched that much further for their reach. So and it's tied many things back. When marketed properly, when you really take an angle and focus on building the brand and building what the community has to offer and position, those are things that catch. And then the Denver Ego Test is just sprinkles on top of, wow, this is actually getting more visibility than we're paying for, and people are enjoying it. People are having fun with it.
You went from getting no walk-in traffic to getting featured in the Denver Ego Test and getting so much visibility and brand awareness for your community. That's like an incredible turnaround that you had there, because I'm sure there's a lot of pressure to perform, and you have a great product that just isn't getting the eyeballs that it deserves. You're not putting lipstick on a pig here. You have a great community, and you just need to kind of bring it to light. So
Yeah.
I love that. And you touched on something so valuable, which is a lot of offers get people in the door, but you used offers that keep people in the door, which is something that most offers don't do. Most offers, you walk by, coffee shop, it says, get a free coffee today when you buy a croissant, right? That gets you in the door. What's getting you to come back? What's getting you to come back as a customer? And if you're a resident, you have this Blue Apron subscription, you have this Botanic Garden membership that you get for free. You've actually created a lifestyle that they're subscribing to instead of just living in the apartment. Because when you are selling, renting out an apartment to a prospect, they're signing on the promise they're going to enjoy living there for a year. It's not as commoditized as a lot of people like to make it out to be. You're paying $1,800 for this studio, and that's what it is. They're saying, I think I'm going to enjoy living here for a year. And you're building things in around the whole experience, which are going to keep them there. And when they look at another apartment when their lease is up, let's say they're reconsidering, now they're not just thinking about how they're paying $1,800 for this studio. They're thinking, wait, I've created this whole lifestyle that Sam and his team helped me take a step into, and I don't want to get rid of that. How am I going to I can't recreate having a botanic garden in my backyard, right? Maybe I
Yeah.
can get the Blue Apron subscription and I can do this and that. But as you start piecing all these lifestyle things together, you've created an offer that not just got people in the door, but I'm sure it kept many, many people in the door as well, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I think like it, there's been a movement. I saw a conversation a few months ago where I think even post-pandemic, uh, people are using the term, we want to bring the community to the neighborhood. And I think that's really powerful too. People want to love the physical quarters and spaces that they live in, but they want to love the neighborhood. And so I think that's like a very underlooked aspect. We talk a lot about it of like, oh, what's close by, what's nearby. But when you extend those partnerships with these places, like you go to Denver, there's a million coffee shops, but you talk to any of my friends and they go to certain ones. There's that sense of loyalty. And I think you build loyalty within your brand, within your community, but building it within the neighborhood is super, super sticky as well. As you said with the Botanic Gardens, like people want to love the area that they want to, your community is just part of it. So I think the more we can pull down those walls and blend the geographic location, and how the community complements it, like those things go hand in hand. I know, like for my living decisions, like there's reasons why I lived in certain neighborhoods of Denver for years because my favorite restaurant was nearby, and like we'd go there for like happy hour all the time, and that was just like an amazing thing to go to. Uh, so I do really like the thought process and a lot of the folks that are really strategically looking at, how do we partner with local nearby restaurants and local nearby things, and how do we leverage those and almost make that extension of our community as opposed to we have a golf simulator, we have a pool, we have everything. You don't need to set foot outside these walls, but really like post pandemic, people are like, well, I want to set foot out here and I want to be in a good place. So I think there's a balance to both of that.
You're right. It's a bit short-sighted to look at what your physical community can do to keep people in the doors, because similar to being friends with your neighbors and how that keeps you in a certain spot and how you don't want to leave, because I don't want to live far away from Sam. We had so much fun on Sunday nights together, right? And we always hang out, and he's always grabbing me coffee from his favorite place. I'm always grabbing and whatever. You know, that's one layer to it. And the second layer post-pandemic is the community. My wife and I are outgrowing our apartment right now. We have a 1.5 year old, and it's already just like, to the brim. And we're looking at other places that are outside of our neighborhood because there's just not a lot of availability. And I'm thinking, I'm going through my head about how I don't want to live far away from my coffee shop anymore. I don't want to live far away from my gym anymore. And like, I'm friends with all these people. It's been years that I've been, I know them by name, and I love the coffee. I love the gym. And that really want, and I don't want to leave for that reason alone. It's not just the apartment. I could get a bigger, nicer place, right? There's tons of supply, and I don't want to leave. And I don't even have friends in my building, but if I did, then it would be, that force multiplier effect of keeping me there. So it's cool to see
Yeah.
how I never thought about using offers to make this effect go farther, right? Because we always
Yeah.
just think about offers to get people in the door, but it could have this lasting effect, which is way more powerful than what most people are talking about.
Yeah, I think it's funny you say that too. I lived in like the Five Points Rhino area of Denver for about 6 years. We just moved out east, which has been a whole other, experience to touch on too, and decisions we made there. But it's, building a sense of community within the physical apartment building is so important. And I think a lot of it, even just going to my friends' apartments and pools, like I was one of those people that would be like, oh great. Like usually I get showed by a resident. You see a lot of residents with friends outside that are within the community coming in. That's a great way to market. And if an apartment was in my purview there, I'd have a great feeling and I'd be like, oh, and it lives over here, like been there enough. Like wouldn't it be great to like live next door? But I think the fact of the matter is, people are working, people are engaged, going to gyms, people are engaging with so many people outside of the community that they live in to become friends, to befriend, that you really get a lot of folks, coming over to your apartment to use certain things, you use that. So you can't neglect as much as you want everyone in the community to be friends and best buddies. You need to acknowledge like the neighborhood and the aspect that you live in as well. I think there's a lot of relationships that are formed for residents outside within those certain activities. So whether it's subsidizing a gym membership, partnering with a certain restaurant to events that like that's where they meet other people and they love where they live, but they love that, separation as well. That's going to keep them in that area. And, I think we focus a lot, which I don't, I don't want to downplay because it's super important, but, building relationships between residents within the community, but also giving them access to build relationships outside of it. In my mind, makes it just as sticky for reasons that you said. You know people around. You don't have to live next door to them. But it's all of those outside exterior things that really keep people interested in the area they live in and within the pain. So, the more we can leverage to make that place feel like home. Home isn't just the four walls you live within. Home is the neighborhood you live around and the people you interact with.
It's the whole experience of living there over the course of your lease, like that whole experience, not just the apartment. I think what you're mentioning is a 1+1 = 3 situation. If you're fostering relationships in the neighborhood and in your community, and then you're actually getting people to experience everything that's outside of their apartment community as well, just because you live in an amazing location, many people have told me this before. It's like, oh, this apartment is right here and here. People are not going to want to leave, right? Best restaurant in the city, whole hub over here. It's walkable, train station, everything. But you're taking for granted that people will discover these things on their own, especially post-pandemic. People are as like introverted and socially awkward as ever, me included. And making an offer that actually gets them to explore these things is going to just make that so much more powerful. There's tons of places that I haven't gone just because I had some sort of coupon for it. And then I'm like, wait, this place is awesome. And suddenly you start frequenting it, right? The coffee shop that I'm talking about, they do this deal where if you buy a pound of coffee, you get a free Americano. So my brother-in-law gave me one of these cards. He's like, hey, you live near there now. And I went there. That's literally for years, like the amount of thousands of dollars I've probably spent there now. But now I'm hooked. Right. And an offer actually got me in the door. I forgot that until right now. They do these little coupons every time you buy a coffee. A pound of coffee, they bring you back for a free, Americano. And I think it's your community doing both those things. It's absolutely 1+1 = 3. And you'll see amazing retention and you'll just be playing this game leveled above everybody else. But yeah.
I
wanted to.
Go ahead. No.
I wanted to bring this. I wanted to bring this conversation back to something that you mentioned in the beginning, which was in student housing. Some people are now expecting these offers late in the game, and they're kind of playing this game of chicken of, we know that if you don't get this lease by this date, you're just not going to be occupied for the next year. So that brings me to my original point, which is offer scarcity is super important, and making sure that there's actually a cutoff keeps the integrity of the offer. Now, when an offer is usually presented as a company, whether it's from leadership or from marketing or leasing, it's usually a high pressure situation. And we're not hitting our leasing goal, and there could be bad repercussions, right? Maybe we promised our lenders that we were going to hit a certain lease percentage by a certain date. The whole sky is going to start falling if that doesn't happen. But when you operate from this high pressure situation, oftentimes you make decisions which decrease the value of your offer dramatically, like extending the amount of time it's valid for. And this gets users to stop caring about the offer. Because if I see, you have this Black Friday thing, but now it's a Christmas thing also.
It's Cyber Monday. You're like, wait, everything's digital right now. Why are these two things even separate?
Exactly. And when there's a cutoff, that creates a fear of missing out. And that fear actually drives us to act. And when we act, we get the dopamine of saying, I got this amazing deal. I feel so good about myself. But if you extend it and you keep making all these decisions, then you're going to lower the value of your offer and it's not going to have the intended effect. So what do you think organizations to do? Is there maybe like a rule book that people can put into place to say, hey, we're only willing to make these changes under these certain conditions? Because there's many red line that you shouldn't cross when it comes to offers. that kind of defeat the purpose of creating it in the first place.
Yeah, I think so. And, I think everyone struggles with this. Like, across multiple industries. And I think the hard part about it is, we're seeing a lot of new construction come to fruition, a lot of new communities coming up, a lot online, and, delivery being fulfilled. And with that, I think the first part of this is like really knowing your products. Like when you talk about student housing, it's a totally different ballgame. You are kind of shooting fish in a barrel. You've got, a student population and enrollment rate that you're looking at. You know how much supply is out there. So it is a different like mathematical game, and it has its challenges. At least every single year, those teams are fantastic at the work that they go through. Um, but when you do kind of get in that, training mindset, it's hard when you don't know your positioning. 'Cause in student housing, you've got things that are like downtown, really close to the library, bigger square footage, and you've got different consumers in that market that still value different things. Some people want to be close to the nightlife and the action. Some people want to have more space and quiet area where they can, have friends over. There's still, I think people get a little, can even be short-sighted on like the student housing demographic of, everyone's our customer. And it's like, well, there may be 18,000 people at this school, but, there's really only 8,000 that like fit your style and, what you have to offer. I think I get back to like, being a Colorado resident for years, look at ski pass situation, right? Look at Icon and look at what do they do? They roll out if you renew by, April of this year, you get the best rate, and they'll say rates are going up in June. So
They stick
right
to
now, right now, exactly, you can lock in this rate. If that goes up another $200, and they've been more and more transparent over what those rate increases are. They've been changing their pricing every year. I mean, skiing out there and those passes have like more than doubled. And granted, it's, a Pepsi and Coke situation in the ski industry. Everyone's owned by someone else now. There's very few private mountains, but they stick to it, and they know that people are talking about it. People are thinking about it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times like I'll go out at night and people have been like, one of you chose Icon or Etica, two, pretty button fast. And, my wife and I will be like, we're really going to get on this. Like, they're $400, like, doesn't make it worth it for us. But, like, you know that. And so as a consumer, it incentivizes you walk in the right. The company is totally transparent in what you get out of it. You're still going to get the same value if you sign earlier. And like any other business, like what's more valuable? Being able to accurately forecast and predict and get lock in residents or skiers for next year and have that up front, or kind of wait to the end of the game and have everyone buy their ski pass at 2x the rate while, you're in the office sweating it out and seeing like, well, we don't have, we're at our peak rate. We can't, bring this back and go back on all the other folks that have already signed. So we kind of got to run it. But I think that's where it really goes into, knowing your product, knowing your offering, knowing your positioning and how to cater into that. But I do think standing firm on those things is what you want to do, right? But like you'll always hit situations where you gotta get creative. And so it's I don't think there's a right way to do it, but I think people are really starting to learn and acknowledge it. I think student housing, when I was deep in that, was something we just saw. And, year after year, we look at, the trend over the last 4 years, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and all of that. Like people are just leasing later. And granted, within that, you got early markets, you got late markets. Like if I had signed a lease at Miami of Ohio in 2010, like by October, I wasn't living anywhere next year. There wasn't, that's just how the demand went. But, there's other markets that have a lot of new communities coming online, a lot more supply, that does put that power a little bit more in the consumer's hand to wait it out. And in that type of industry and, asset cycle, that's not what you want. So you got to figure out, how can we get this in early and how can we stick to it?
And you're absolutely right. And I want to address, I think I overgeneralized earlier. Sometimes you do have to act out of desperation, right? And
Yeah.
I think sometimes it can be hard if there's not a lot of transparency top down over what we're trying to accomplish with this offer. if this is a last ditch effort to actually save a property, from foreclosure, then forget what I said. Like the guard rules around making offers valuable doesn't really matter if you're not going to have a property to create an offer around. So there's definitely situations which I've been a part of that you don't really have a choice but to extend this offer and really just make it as aggressive as possible to get somebody in the door and break kind of all of the rules around making good offers just because of the situation you're in. But I think as a company, you want to put some guardrails in place to make sure that you actually get what you want to get out of the offer. You want to get people to act. You want them to feel like they're going to miss out if they don't grab this. So one thing that I want to quote from Alex Hormozy's book, $100 million Offers, is something that we talked about not too long ago about stacking the value. And what he said is one offer broken up into the sum of its parts is more valuable than the whole thing added up. So if you've got 2 months free, but you keep stacking 1 week, 1 week, 1 week, 1 week, in the eyes of the prospect, that's more valuable. So if you can create that journey, they're going to feel like they're getting way more than if you just laid all the cards out on the table. And e-commerce specialists are incredible at this, at kind of pulling you in with bonus offers and bonus offers and bonus offers. And I haven't seen any communities really do this, but I think there's massive opportunity there for us to stack the value and kind of create one offer that pulls people into the door and another offer that converts them, right? That would probably be the first step. But I'm curious if you've ever ran something like that or where you see the opportunity being for someone listening to this right now.
Yeah, I can't say that I have. And that's not to say that we haven't. We had a massive team over there doing a ton of work. But I think what I will say is I think we're positioned to do it today better than we ever have been before. And that may sound meaningless to say, but I think in like industries, that's not always the case. And I say that with like the introduction of all these lead nurturing tools to help, whether it's centralization efforts, that fun buzzword, and or just whether it's how to control and better understand your prospect and that prospect journey. So I think is, operators better look at how they're using those tools, whether they want to, um, you know, whether it's you get someone in the door, they sign today, 1 day close, this is an offer you can extend. You took them on a tour, they weren't ready to sign. Well, maybe in your follow-up email, you can say, hey, if you sign by X date, we're running this promotion and that ends 2 weeks post the first tour they took. I think there's a lot of things that they're set up to do from a technological standpoint than we were, 6, 7 years ago, where, we'd be relying on, okay, someone visited the website but didn't convert. So no, we run a remarketing ad that has this specific offer in it. I still think we need to augment that messaging better. And I do think you can kind of stack things, but I think now we can actually track that far better than we could previously when, we just didn't have the CRM or the lead management system that's prevalent in the industry to really facilitate this. I mean, you talk about e-commerce and Shopify is plug and play, it's down to the wire. But I do think there's a lot of ways you can segment that from, again, the 1 day close to toured them, didn't convert, first 2 weeks we're going to offer this, next 4 weeks we're going to offer that. And your point of diminishing return. I mean, it's like, if you don't answer the call, the prospect's likely, move on and go somewhere else, so how do we grasp that and keep their attention so that we can even elongate that, where it's like, hey, missed your fall, but now you're in this workflow. So I think those lead nurturing tools that are coming out are a fantastic vehicle for this type of marketing. Is now just, as always, using those tools to enhance what you're doing. Don't get a lot of people just, add it and be like, great, we've got a lead nurturing tool. It's like, but, well, there's also content and strategy that you can now use that you couldn't use before. And that's really the true benefit of a lot of those in my mind.
I agree with you. And you touched on the tools that we have available to us now. I think the first step to being confident stacking offers or splitting them up to get a better effect, the first step would be having offers not create so much work for operations and marketing, because creating a blanket offer is already a ton of work. Like you said with the Memorial Day example, right? You got it up. Oh, well, we couldn't get it down before the weekend. I guess this is a Memorial Day special too. And tons of teams all around the country are struggling just to update all of their channels that don't integrate with their tools. And it creates a ton of work to get it on and then to get it off in between all of the listings, tools, vendors that need to be in the loop here. Offers are oftentimes just not even valid when you see them because of that technological and operational gap. So I think
Yeah.
the first step would be offers shouldn't create so much work for you. Our technology and systems need to advance, and that's actually something that we're working on at Flare. But once you get to that point, then we can start playing around, which your point about e-commerce, Shopify, they're at that point where they can do that. Their technology is not holding them back in this way, and it's not creating a lot of work. For Russell Brunson of ClickFunnels, it's not creating a ton of work for him to send you a nurture email with a new coupon code saying, hey, you're going to get an extra 15% off if you buy this now, right? That's not a nightmare for his marketing team. That's just everyday stuff. So our industry needs to get up to that standard, and I think we're on that track. I'm excited to see who leans into it first.
Yeah, and I think like more so than ever, like people are understanding the need to like work together, whether it's on the iOS side, whether it's on the marketing side, whatever platform you are, finding that way to play in the sandbox or, swim in the same pool, just in different lanes, but swimming together. You're seeing that. So I think it's only going to enable this further. But I mean, I still do think today, we're pretty well there from the marketing mixes and the common things that you're seeing people utilize. You can do a lot with this digitally. People have a good grasp on it. But you're absolutely right when it comes to like creating work, whether it's ideating this, whether it's actually getting it set up, whether it's getting approval from ownership. I think you're seeing PMCs that are third party, operated as well, really lean into this standardization of the systems and the technology that they use so that they can work with multiple owners in this. And you're seeing them sign national partnerships. And, I think of it from like sales organizations where it's like, okay, you're allowed to give like certain gifts to certain people that like meet these certain criteria. There's no reason you couldn't set up not no reason, but you can get to the point where it's like, okay, you get like an Amazon gift card for this, you get an AirPods for this, and that's just like in your operational stack of, that's not something that you necessarily need to, if you can get to the point that doesn't need to be owner approved, then, facilitated through the PMA or, that, but also it gives you predictability. You don't have to go to the well, you don't have to reinvent this wheel every single time. You can create enough grab bag things that people have access to that allow for diversification and creativity, but standardization at the same time.
Now, there is an insane opportunity here with standardization if you're building a multifamily brand, right? Like let's say a Bazzuto or a BH is doing, and you're actually building up this brand that is going to be recognizable, et cetera. Because not only can you create, let's say, offer rules, which would be my golden standard for your organization, rules to make sure that our offers are valuable, create fear, give you the dopamine hit, all that kind of stuff. But you can get creative with the offers that you roll out across the board. So in the book that I referenced, $100 million offers, he talks about an anti-offer, right? So you're actually not giving them a deal, but an example would be, let's say, a move out guarantee. So you say, hey, move into any, X community. And if you don't like it within 30 days, we will refund you your application fee, your deposit, and everything, and you can just walk away and break your lease. That would be an offer that you're actually, of course, you're risking losing some money, but you're actually not giving any dollars. You're actually not discounting at all right off the bat. You're just creating this kind of brand-wide, company-wide offer that gets eyeballs on you, and it's customized, and that people are scared of signing a lease at an apartment that they are not going to like. So you're kind of playing into that fear and alleviating that fear, which fear is such a big part of the offers. If you can alleviate that, you can actually get them to act in that way, which I think is fascinating. And I would love to see somebody do that as well.
Yeah, I describe this, as opposed to trying to like put up a ladder to bring someone over the wall, like how can we pull that wall down? what is that barrier? What's the opportunity cost of doing that? And exactly what you're referencing. I mean, look at Zappos, right? No one wanted to buy shoes online because sizes varied across different brands. So what did they do? Pay for your returns. You can order, three different sizes, but it got more people in the door. It got more people using the product. Free returns from home was easy. They're like, great. Now we eliminated having to go to a store, find the shoe that you want to get. You can search from our marketplace online. You can buy all the pairs, and you're only going to pay for the one that you keep. So it's that's pulling down that wall, not like trying to create a bridge, build a ladder, and get someone over it. So I love it's those, yeah. I think we often don't take that mindset. It takes a good deal of critical thinking of figuring out what's preventing someone from doing this. If it's being locked into a lease, and being be refunded, obviously, like that's a big topic, and that's a big one to swing, but a great example of it. It's just instead of trying to go around it, go over it, how can we remove it? And I think we had the pleasure of working with Cortland for years, and Mike Gillums over there is fantastic at that. Understanding the consumer. Dan and Carney, they were really fun. They got very creative, and when you're working with owner operators like them and other folks that you mentioned in the space as well, there's a lot of standardization opportunity. There's a lot of brand to be built, a lot of consistency, and a lot of consumer recognition and validation of that throughout. So it's great. I think it's the challenge for third party operators, and that's where you gotta look at where standardization and customization, intersect. And I think that's just a fine line to walk. It's always reevaluating how much can you standardize, but also how much can we get creative and kind of differentiate. What's our pool? And that's where we go to like the grab bag of offers. It's like, well, this offer may not work for every single community, but if we have 20, chances are, we can put it in higher and, start to standardize there.
I don't think you realize, but now that you say it out loud, your sense of home offer regarding Blue Apron actually hit both sides of the coin that we're talking about here. Not only did you remove a wall, which that wall or objection was, there's something to eat around here, and I don't really want to live. I love eating out, or I love shopping at the grocery store in walking distance. You remove that wall by saying, "Hey, look, no, we're gonna take care of that for you, but we're also gonna give you a discount to Blue Apron, which is an offer that gets you into the door." So I think that's actually the gold standard of offers. If your offer can remove a wall while giving some incentive to walk into the door and actually explore what this is about, I think that's just like the perfect offer right there. You're removing an objection and giving and creating an incentive at the same time, like you're getting 2 steps ahead in one move.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's well put. And yeah, I think it's just understanding that. I think far too often we kind of ignore the barriers, and they're just like, let's flip through it, or let's go around it, let's not, but addressing it, head on. It also shows the consumer that like you understand them, you know them. It's like, we're not a jack of all trades, we don't have every single thing, but for what we lack, we understand our weak points, and this is how we handle them, this is how we address them, this is how we overcome them. You kind of do that together with the prospect, and I think that just shows a great deal of trust as it is.
And your offer can do so much more than just get people in the door, because as you just mentioned, usually people know the top objections for why someone wouldn't live there. For your sense of home campaign, you knew all of the objections up front, and you used that to inform the offer, as opposed to just waiting until leasing velocity dropped and just said, "Oh, let's scramble and just slap 2 months free and then just get it on all of our sources." You're like, "No, wait a minute. How is this offer going to actually fix a lot of the core issues when it comes to marketing and positioning this community?" I think that's genius. I love that you did that. But if you're listening to this, then you should ask yourself, how can we use the offer to actually address objections up front, so that our leasing agents or leasing team doesn't have to just scramble on the fly and say, "Oh, well, you could have signed up for Blue Apron and fix that problem." They're gonna be like, "That was your suggestion? Your community's not next to a grocery store or any restaurant," right?
Yeah.
If you know your objection, then market them up front and address them before they even reach out to you. Your conversion rates are gonna improve, and your leasing team is gonna thank you for it, because their job is gonna be way easier.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's any type of communication. It just shows alignment, like, okay, I understand, what I did wrong or what I don't have. This is it. How are we going to work through this? And yeah, it's a great point. I think, one thing we always did really well and really pushed for was making it easy for that communication all the way up from boots on the ground. No one knows those objections better than your on-site leasing team or your community manager. So finding a way to not add more things to their plate, but, give them a form that they can fill out once a quarter and really be like, why do people sign here? Why do people not sign here? So that is just marketing gold. That's where true
Gold.
ID and customization can come from. So I think, but obviously it's our goal to not include them on like every monthly or weekly call, but make sure that they got a very a seat at the table no matter what that they can access. Because yeah, objections, that's where if I don't want to go down a different route on that, but yeah,
For
it's
the next
super important.
episode.
Yeah,
Yeah. And as for your point on standardization, as you grow, keeping that chain uniform and intact from top to bottom is going to get so insanely hard. But as a marketer, the success of your role actually relies on that chain being intact. And if you're going to be scrambling to try and get that bottom up information to inform your marketing decision, it's not going to scale very well, and you're kind of setting your ceiling. So
yeah,
I'm sure
and
we'll
I think
record another episode about that. But
yeah, it's super powerful. I mean, like the digital marketing team at Rent, like they work with hundreds of communities and how all this data, not just on like the geographics, you know, rent rolls and all of that, but being able to then add in those qualitative aspects, it just makes your partner that much more capable of bringing ideas to the table. Again, it's, I'm sure no one's just having a very few and far between is your problem unique. When you're doling in thousands of communities, it's like we've probably seen it before and we've probably addressed it. So, we can help to overcome this. We've sat in your seat before, as chaotic as it may sound, like it's gonna be okay. We've been here before.
totally. Sam, thanks so much for hopping on the podcast. I really enjoyed the conversation. If you're listening, I hope you got a ton of value out of this as we dove into buyer psychology, how people are crafting offers today, and maybe what you can do with this information to make sure that the same offer, just restructured or made unique, can actually take you way farther. So, Sam, thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for chatting.
Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Building Blocks. I hope you found some value in the conversation. If you want to get updated every time a new episode drops, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn at Ed and Chai, or just head over to our website, getflare.io, and subscribe. You'll see our newsletter there as well. That's all for today. I'll catch you next time.